One of the things we all hate as just like a human species, and especially in business, is change, right? Even if we know it's for like our own good, we hate it. So if we're all busy in our businesses and our personal lives, that begs the difference. When is the right time for change when you just don't have time? Or you don't know how to initiate it, or if you just don't know if it's the right time or if it can wait for later, right? There's so many different nuances to it. And from someone who has gone through a lot of change this year, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, there is never a convenient time for change, but there's always divine timing in change. Let me say that again. There's never a convenient time for change, but there's always divine timing in change. Because even if you're in a place where you're like, I'm not ready for change, I'm just going to sit in my comfort zone, I'll do it later. Or regardless, if you're like, I'm ready, let's do it, let's change things up. In both scenarios, you can't escape pain, discomfort, or work, but you can choose the outcome from the pain that you choose. So in today's conversation, we're going to be talking about the two types of pain, whether you're in stagnant pain or you're in purposeful pain. Because many people think that if they just choose to sit in their comfort zone, which is stagnant pain, right, it's technically not more work, which is true. It's not more work, but it's still work. And actually the work gets harder if you're in comfort zone pain. And there's still pain and there's still discomfort. It's just different. So we'll touch more upon that. But a lot of you recently I've been hearing from you, I don't have the luxury to deal with my issues right now. I have a business to run, I'm getting married, and my kids need my attention, I'm remodeling my house, I'm launching. How many of you have a million different things going on? I bet all of you listening to this right now, right? But here's the thing. Things are always going to keep happening to you, whether you like it or not. There's never going to be a slow season, even if it is a slow season. But as a CEO and just as a human, the skill set that you need to learn and master is how to find the serenity in the chaos. The most successful people that you can think of, Sarah Blakely, Richard Branson, all of these people, right? They didn't get to where they are because they had the luxury of healing and peace and all the money in the world. They healed themselves and grew their business in the midst of chaos. I don't think I've ever heard a successful entrepreneur, rags to riches story where they had the luxury of things not happening to them. Can you? So really, it's mastering the skill of serenity in chaos. So then therefore answers the question of when is the right time to change? Well, it's in the midst of chaos, because when will there be peace if you yourself do not know how to get to peace? So something I see in all of my clients and just really ambitious female entrepreneurs in general is that if there is a snag in your plans, if something goes out of whack, especially if you're a perfectionist, which if you're ambitious, all of us are, then your nervous system can't stay balanced. And if your nervous system can't stay balanced and you just go into the spiral every single time there's a little problem, one, how are you going to grow the capacity to handle more problems, bigger problems, especially if you have big growth sales goals or just big goals in life in general? How is your nervous system going to adapt to that if you can't handle the stress and the capacity of energy at your current level? And it's going to be a really long, painful road for you to hit your goals if you don't know how to master that serenity in chaos, if you don't know how to expand your capacity in that way. So before we initiate change in our businesses and our lives, I first want us to be aware of the type of pain we're choosing, because most people actually don't know the type of pain they're choosing or what they're choosing at all, because a lot of our decisions are just subconscious, right? It's just a reaction. It's a reaction to what we're doing. We don't even think about it. And our ego has a lot to do with that. So whether we're subconsciously or consciously choosing, I want us to be aware of it. So I talk a lot about how decision-making is a CEO skill set and just a human skill set that is critical to have and is the number one thing that will make or break you, because we are the product of our decisions, regardless if they're subconscious or conscious, right? But it's truly about understanding what we're choosing, how we're choosing it, and why we're choosing it. A lot of the time our ego makes these decisions for us and we don't even know it. So consciously, let's talk about the two types of pains, because as I said before, regardless if you're determined to stay in the comfort zone right now, you can't escape from pain, discomfort, or work. And regardless if you're choosing purposeful pain, then you're going to experience pain, discomfort, and work. So at the end of the day, you're going to be experiencing the same thing, but what is your choice then? Which one are you choosing? So the first one is the comfort zone dilemma, right? Stagnant pain. So this is I'm really exhausted all the time in my business. And to be honest, I'm growing resentful day to day. How many of you think like that? It's okay to say you do, because I'll be honest with you, the number of people that I know that have these huge growth goals, but at the same time hate their business is a lot of you. And I was one of those people too, up until recently, let me tell you. But I know it sounds probably kind of shameful and guilty to say that, because if our businesses have given us this life, right, this income, this lifestyle, but at the same time, we almost have like undiagnosed or maybe diagnosed high functioning depression, then it's like, what are we doing? Because we're literally living day to day unfulfilled with no peace or joy. I was talking to somebody recently and they were like, yeah, I'm making 70K a month, but I can't remember the last time I actually like enjoyed one of my days. But I also don't want to do anything about it because it seems too risky, right? So the comfort zone can happen at any level. This is not like an income specific or problem specific. It could literally just be at any level. And it's okay to say you hate your business right now. It's okay to say, I love the money I'm making. I hate my business. I'm growing resentful of my business. I'm growing resentful of my clients. I'm growing resentful every single time I have to open Instagram and I want to throw it against the fucking wall. But I think we are made to feel like we're not allowed to say that because that's not the lifestyle we portray to our audience. But I just want to let you know this is a safe space. We can say that. And we also have, like I said before, we have a lot going on. You know, you're running a business, you're launching, you have a wedding to plan, you have birthdays to plan, etc. But at least I'm making money, so it's fine. I have nothing to really complain about, so I'll do it later. I hate to break it to you, but in this scenario, just because your bills are getting paid and you're making money, but the second effect of that is you just actually being in high functioning depression and miserable and actually not even being remember the last time you found joy or peace or serenity in anything. Even if you're not actively working, you still feel like the shoe's going to drop. You're choosing pain. It's that comfort zone. It's our ego that just wants to have us locked in. Because even though we're not changing anything, we're still choosing to sit in pain. Because the way I think about it, avoiding pain is like avoiding the sun. You can hide inside on a cloudy day, but the sun will still be there when the clouds clear. So even if you're just like, oh, I'll deal with it later, like, oh, I'm really stressed out right now, I'll deal with it later, the problem is still there. The problems are going to continue to be there. Your unhappiness will continue to be there. Your depression will continue to be there. Creating content will continue to feel hard. Like there's no escaping it. But you have this perception of the comfort zone where you think you are escaping it, and that's what becomes dangerous. The pain of escaping and thinking, oh, by staying stagnant, that you get to avoid the pain, discomfort, and the work. But that's not how it works. If anything, to me, staying in the comfort zone actually makes those things even worse because there's actually no way out of them. At least with purposeful pain, and we'll get to this, there's an actual outcome and you get to decide what that outcome is. But when you're in stagnant pain, you're just amplifying what already is and there's no end date to it. So you're in just this infinity circle of unfulfillment. And work actually becomes harder the more unfulfilled you get. So if you think creating content right now feels really hard, Try festering that on a couple more months and see how much harder it becomes then. You're like starting to hate your like Zoom calls. Give it a couple months and see how much more discomfort and more resentment you have towards those calls by not doing anything about it. It's just not sustainable. So for everybody on here who's ambitious, high performing, has huge growth goals, how is being in that state of mind sustainable for your business? I want you to think about that. How is choosing to stay in this infinite place of exhaustion with no way out going to propel your business forward? I don't think there is one, to be quite honest. I don't think it is sustainable. But you know what is sustainable? Actually finding serenity in the chaos. If you know how to do that, if you know how to pull into that center of serenity from chaos at any given moment during the day, well, that's a sustainable workload. That is something you can sustain no matter the level of problems you encounter in your business. Because if you're at like the 6-figure mark right now and your goal is to get 7, 8 figures, oh my God, there's going to be so much chaos you're going to have to deal with. I don't care if you have a team of 20, if you're running ads, if you have all the bells and whistles, there's always going to be more problems. And the problems are just going to amplify and get bigger. So how are we pulling from the chaos to serenity? Do we actually have the tools and the know-how to get there? Right? And then on the other hand, there's purposeful pain. So I don't know about you. I'll use myself as an example to explain this. I don't know about you, but I feel like anytime I'm thrown into change, because I don't like change, I'm definitely a creature of habit. It's always chosen me. I've never chosen it, if that makes sense. So when I think about every single time, like my life has like drastically changed, right? Like me starting my business, I would have never started my business if the universe was like, nope, that's not what you're doing anymore. So it literally had to take a global pandemic to make me lose my job. And then because I lost my job, I didn't really have a savings because even in corporate, you're not making much. So you're basically living paycheck to paycheck. I had a very small savings account. And it was a time when my lease was up for renewal. And I was like, how the hell am I going to renew my lease if I can't even if I don't even have money, right? So at that point, I was like thrown against a wall. I was thrown to rock bottom. And I had a choice of to sit in comfort zone pain of being like, oh my God, there's like no way there's like no other option for me. I have to find just like another corporate job that's like soul sucking and I hate, even though that's exactly the place I was in for months before I got let go. I think it was like even the summer before. So the pandemic started in like March 2020. I think like June 2019, I was like already like crying my eyes out every day because I just felt this like immense pain of like, what the hell am I doing? Like, is this literally all there is? I hated it. And my job wasn't bad necessarily. It was a good job, but like, I just felt my soul being crushed every single day. And so I think about how many times in my life have I been given a choice to stay in comfort zone pain and purposeful pain. But the thought in that example of like finding another corporate job, which by the way, I did have interviews for, I did do the sensible thing that everybody was telling me to do. And I got on the phone with a couple recruiters, and every single time I got on a phone with a recruiter, my stomach dropped. It was like, I can't even explain it, but you know, when you have just like a visceral body reaction to like being in danger, that's how I can explain it. It was like a full body fuck no. A full body fuck no. It was like my intuition, the universe, like every source in the cosmos were like, girl, this is not, nope, this is not what we gave you this choice. And I think about how anytime I've given that experience, it takes something like me hitting a wall, something tragic happened, me hitting rock bottom. And I think for a lot of very high performing, ambitious female entrepreneurs, that's exactly what happens. The only way we're going to change because we're so laser focused on like hitting goals is we physically need to be knocked down, like on our asses and not be given a ladder. because we're so ambitious that like the thought of taking a step back, even if it's for our own good, in order to like magnify and leap forward 10 times, even if we know that like, oh yeah, by taking a step back, I 100% will be able to like leap more than I ever thought I could. That thought alone to us is terrifying. Like our brains will physically start malfunctioning at the thought of it. Who agrees with me on that? We think that like the world will crumble and our business will disappear if, God forbid, we like slow down or take a step back. If it's for like even like a couple weeks, a summer. I definitely used to be like that. But at the same time, if you're saying something like, I can't keep going like this, if you keep having those thoughts of, I can't keep going like this, I am growing resentful and I'm starting to really hate my business, but I love the money I'm making. And now I'm in this like conundrum that actually you used to be in corporate, which is the whole reason you started your business in the first place, duh. And you feel like you have high functioning depression at this point, and you can't remember the last time you actually had fun, and it's just not fulfilling anymore, and you're asking yourself two questions, which are really, really important. Why am I doing this, and what am I doing this for? Then that is your time. That is your time to step into purposeful pain. That is your time when you know that you've hit the wall where there is no other outcome here but purposeful pain. And I know it seems really hard because choosing to heal is like swimming against a current. It's hard work, but it's worth it to reach the other side. Versus if you're like swimming against a current and you're just in stagnant pain, well, you're just like, well, I'm just going to swim where I currently am and not use as much energy. But then where are you going? Nowhere, right? I have to tell you, like, this year has been the most change I've ever experienced in my life in like the absolute worst way. Like, it took a tragedy, it took rock bottom. Like, everything I thought I knew about myself, about what I wanted, was completely just demolished this year. And when my Coco, my dog, passed away in March, I I felt homeless. I felt homeless within myself. I felt homeless in my business. I felt homeless in my apartment. I felt homeless walking the streets of New York City. I felt homeless in my parents' home in Florida. I just felt homeless in my soul. And it's the strangest feeling. If anybody here has gone through grief, I don't know if you've ever felt like this before. But when the only thing that you care about most in this world gets taken away from you, you start to have this like awakening of like, you actually don't give a shit about anything. Even if it's like paying your bills, you just don't give a shit because everything you thought you cared about, this like identity you've created for yourself, these like values, this belief system, it doesn't matter anymore. It just doesn't fucking matter anymore. Because when you step into this point of like asking yourself the questions of like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing this for? What is the point of all of this? You start realizing that the way you're operating is actually pointless. Because what are you doing it for? Other than just the money and the recognition, because up until this point, all of your self-worth and identity has been tied up in that. And I just hit that point where going back to my day-to-day life as I was healing from the grief just seemed soul-sucking, just like it was when I was talking to the recruiters on the phone 3 years ago. So at that point, I had the choice of, do I just grieve? Do I just grieve the loss of my soul baby and then handle the purposeful pain and like my business and my life and really deconstructing my current belief system to build it back up and then implement it? But to be honest, when I was faced with that decision, once again, I feel like I was just thrown into it because the comfort zone at that point wasn't even a choice. Because, like I said, the comfort zone felt homeless. It actually didn't feel safe. Where every other time in my life, the comfort zone did feel safe, the comfort zone no matter felt safe. So, which direction I went, it didn't feel good. So, when you're up against a wall like that, there is only one way out, and that is purposeful pain. And let me know if you can relate to this, but like in that position, I didn't know up from down, from left to right. I was just taking it like one pebble stone at a time because that's all I could handle. And that's where the real healing in that pain sat in. And from my personal experience and then working with clients, 10 out of 10 times, the pain will feel heavier and more uncomfortable when you're in purposeful pain versus stagnant pain. But when we're in the purposeful pain, there is a way out. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you get to dictate what that end of the tunnel is, what those limitless possibilities are, and what the result will be. Versus if you stay in the comfort pain, the stagnant pain, there is no way out. And so that's when, clients come to me and they're like, I just need more strategy. I'm like, but you're choosing to stay in comfort pain. And as we know, it's an infinite loop. So you throwing more strategy on a problem that has nothing to do with strategy, make that make sense, right? So this is where the duality of strategy and spirituality come in, because I holistically look as you as the person and the business. So for example, I had a client where her strategy was great. Everything that she was supposed to be doing, she was doing, and she kept getting no's like no tomorrow. She had like 7 no's in a row. And she was like, I just don't get it. I'm doing everything right. But it was very clear to me, but she just didn't want to accept it, that it actually wasn't a strategy issue. And for us who are very ambitious, who are very logical, manifesting generators, it is very hard to look outside of the logic and actually admit to yourself that maybe what's going on with you is not a business issue, but because you are the head that operates the machine, that the machine can only go as far as you will. And when we actually dove into what was going on, and there was no more optimizing the business, but there was just more optimizing her and really getting to the root of what was going on, then she booked literally like 5 new clients in 2 weeks. But it's not always black and white. Growth happens in a gray most of the time. I would say 95% of the time, decisions happen in the gray. And only 5% is it actually very black and white of the decision that we need to be making. So I want you to sit on that. So just to summarize, there's 2 differences in the pain that we're choosing, right? There's stagnant pain, which may seem easy, may seem like the easy way out because there's no change involved, but there's also no ending involved. So the question I want you to ask, there's 3 questions I want to ask you. I want you to take away from this. If you are someone who is feeling like there's just something inside where like your intuition and your gut is like, I can't keep doing this. I want to change, but I'm too busy, too exhausted. I have things going on. I want you to ask yourself, how much longer can you sustain this as a human in a business? How much longer can your business sustain this? What does that look like 6 to 12 months from now? This exact moment where you're feeling so exhausted, where realistically do you think your business can go to operating like that? Operating from exhaustion, lack of joy, lack of peace, lack of fulfillment, lack of happiness, never finding serenity in the chaos. And if you are saying to yourself, well, it'll eventually get better once things die down. Okay, how? What's the plan? That's my second question. What is the plan? When do you realistically think things will die down? Because nothing changes until you change it. If the goal is growth in your business, but you as a human operating the machine are slammed against a wall, how are you planning to hit your growth goals when you're operating from misery? That's my third question. Okay? Because I can guarantee you, like I said before, if you are hating certain parts of your days right now, you're only going to grow to hate them more the more time goes on. And that, to me, feels like more work, even though I'm not choosing to do more work. Right? Versus purposeful pain. You're actively working on healing what needs to be healed. You're actively sitting and processing your feelings. And if you're someone who is now saying like, oh, I'm self-aware. Yeah, I know you're self-aware. We're all self-aware. Like, it's actually an issue how self-aware we are. We're all ambitious. We're all high performance. We're all like manifesting generators. We're all self-aware. That's like not an issue. But the issue becomes that we intellectualize our feelings. And that is not the same as feeling them and processing them. And I mean like deeply feeling them and asking those questions while we're in the midst of feeling them. Like I said, I had to ask myself those questions while I was in the middle of grief at the like depths of my feelings. That is what I'm talking about here. So if you're someone who is like, oh my God, this is exactly, it's a full body yes from me. This is exactly how I'm feeling and I'm ready to change. Or if I don't know how I'm ready to change, but I just know I need to, come talk to me. DM me. There's multiple ways to work together. We can do an intensive. If you're ready for the duality of the healing and strategy, there's the Limitless Mastermind. Or if you're just ready to go all in, there's one-on-one coaching. But if you feel drawn to this and you just can't imagine feeling like the way you're feeling today 6 to 12 months from now or for another 5 years, I want us to have a legit conversation.